Battlefront Classic Collection is finally here across Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, but it's definitely not like the simulations. What is up, my guys and Battlefront brethren? As a huge Star Wars fan and a faithful follower from the 2004 original release of Battlefront 1, I'm still super excited about this release and this title. I definitely expect to still be playing it in the near future, but I wanted to share my thoughts after about 2 days of playing this game for about 5 hours, 6 hours post-launch. Hopefully for those who might still be on the fence, whether you're going to be looking to pick this game up or if you already bought the game, hopefully this helps validate some of the thoughts that you might have been having while you were playing in sessions. And I just want to preface that this video is not sponsored and I'm not affiliated with any other companies sharing my thoughts about the current state of this game. I purchased it with my own hard-earned nostalgic dollars. I paid around $28 in total. I got a small discount, like a $7 discount, because I already owned the 2005 original Battlefront in my Steam collection. But for most of us, we were paying the full $35 in USD for this title at release, which is about 50% of a AAA title. And I also wanted to note that I did submit a ticket directly to Aspyr on their website after their devs and company gave out like an update at launch, submitting all of these claims that we're going to walk through. And I'll share an update if any of my requests are either addressed or, honestly, at this point, even if I get a response from their company, just given that they have a very rocky history of validating anything that the community shares back with them for their titles and their ports. So to start, I played this game on PC only. So for console users, I didn't get to test those copies, but from my understanding and just seeing what's being created across social media platforms and folks speaking to this Battlefront game topic, that the PlayStation and Xbox versions also experiencing similar issues, primarily across the multiplayer front. Here, the Nintendo Switch version and port is fine for the most part and not lagging, but my guess is that player base is much smaller than the other three versions of this game, so just want to keep that in mind. Now, I think Aspyr has been doing some really sick stuff. They have been creating a lot of ports to different Star Wars titles. I would like to say that I'm just grateful in general that this game was re-released to us. Battlefront is near and dear to my heart, and I've been playing the game honestly since it released in 2004. So that's like nearly 20 years. So when I heard about the game, I was excited to be like, oh, I can play this online with my friends. This was something that was not possible at any shape or form when I was just playing this on my PlayStation 2 for Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. So it's super sick to see Aspyr showing some love to these older Star Wars releases. They've recreated some ports for Star Wars Republic Commando, Knights of the Old Republic, a handful of other titles that I'll flash up on the screen. So I'm not exactly sure if the racer game had an online component, but this probably is Aspyr's largest efforts to make a multiplayer-based online experience for these ports. So I did want to keep that in mind, but honestly, there's a lot of things that we got to dive into. If I had one thing to say before we go into the details of what I've been experiencing, Aspyr needs to get themselves together between their team, their devs, their QA folks, and any beta testers or influencers that they're reaching out to for feedback before a game launches. I'm sure they have a lot of these pieces in place, but they really need to take their time with these launch planning schedules and expectations, because the hype, honestly, for this re-release and this port was unreal. The Battlefront community has been amazing. This is probably one of the most popular Star Wars games ever released. And a lot of my friends personally and a lot of folks on social media were hyped about this title, being able to play this online, which was the main component of why folks were buying this. But honestly, pretty much a botched launch for Aspyr, and I'm hoping that they're going to be able to bounce back with a community and player base for this, but we'll have to see how they address this and if people even want to come back to a title at this point, given the rocky launch. Getting games like this that aren't even playable for the main reason people are playing this game, in particular the multiplayer component for Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1, $35 is inexcusable for an asking price. Like, I can understand the game being like 10 or 15 bucks, but this is unacceptable, and game developers should not be expecting to just pull off these cash grabs without fixing and addressing the issues. So to quickly summarize the current state of the game, I would say that now, after the second day after launch, it looks like the servers are much easier to find online to join matches, dedicated servers from Aspyr at least, without the game completely crashing and lagging out. The lag isn't horrible, primarily across Battlefront 1 in terms of like hit detection and playability, but Battlefront 2, it's playable now, and you can definitely find matches, but there's still a lot of lag that we'll go ahead and get into in a second that makes the game pretty tough to bear. So Battlefront 1 for me is honestly working about 90% of the time without major game-breaking issues, but there's still some input lag and delay. Honestly, kind of surprising for a game that was made nearly 20 years ago. I'm not a developer and don't understand like the full backend that goes behind these ports, but I honestly just can't understand like what they could have gotten wrong. I've played a ton of arena shooters emulators and ports in the past that had online components that worked just fine. So it's just surprising to see a game like this that's really not graphically intensive, really just not working. And I just wanted to share here the response that we received from Aspyr themselves the day of the launch. We'd like to thank the Battlefront community for their overwhelming support and feedback for the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection release. At launch, we experienced critical errors with our network infrastructure. The result was incredibly high ping, matchmaking errors, crashes, and servers not appearing in the browser. Yikes. Since launch, we've been working to address these issues and increase network stability, and we will continue our efforts until our network infrastructure is stabilized and prevent further outages. Please continue to report bugs. Please continue to report bugs. And here's a request form that they provide. You know, it's nice that they reached out at least to us to give us an update that they're seeing these issues. And Aspyr has previously kind of gone silent in terms of community feedback. So, I mean, that's a good sign, but not a great sign. Just kind of like a PR move just to make it look like they're not hitting and running with a cash grab. So then on top of that, before the large PR blast went out, Aspyr did send out a note if you have any feedback, I'm guessing for any journalists, reviewers, or early testers, if you have bugs or feedback, there are some request forms that are available. They are encouraging users to still log any bugs, but it's kind of a slap in the face that us as community users that paid the full price for this title essentially are the QA folks and testing a buggy launch title for free. It's just a little bit wild. So I think diving into the game specifics, starting with Battlefront 1, this is the title I'd recommend that you jump into now if you're looking to have hopefully the most unhindered experience. It's totally playable online. The graphics do have a marginal improvement over the previous Steam ports with some AI upscaling that was part of this release if you haven't seen it already. And you'll notice if you played the original games like I did for over like 500 plus hours that there is a difference and the resolution does look a little bit better, but please don't expect anything mind-blowing in terms of the graphic department. It's not a remaster, it's just a slight upscaling so the game looks a little bit better with the higher frame rates and resolutions that you'll be playing the game on. And honestly, this game hit my heart in a special way when I was replaying this, scrolling through the menus, selecting the classes, seeing old maps like Kashyyyk. This is just something I'd wake up and look forward to the weekend on. I'd wake up at like 6 a.m. to play this game in the morning, and it's just super special for me to be able to relive this experience, be able to honestly just play it online in any shape or form, because this wasn't something that was available, at least to me. That's been huge. You know, I'm grateful that at least that like we have the opportunity to even start talking about this. Having 64 player, 32 on 32 chaotic online multiplayer matches is like a dream fulfilled. It's freaking fun, and there's like explosions everywhere going on. The AI was never really smart in Battlefront, so it's just really nice to be able to play against other people, and it's just like super frantic and exactly what I was hoping for and expecting playing online matches in Battlefront. The single player on all the menus works great, except for the nincompoop creative director or whoever approved the audio for the loading menu screen. They need to fire them now. That's ridiculous. It's not a game-breaking issue, but just a minor gripe that was a huge piece of the original Battlefront experience if y'all played this. I will just say online was laggy day one on launch. It wasn't broken 90% of the time during my experience. Battlefront 1 does perform better than Battlefront 2 online. There's some hit detection lag and input lag, but it's not game-breaking. Like, I'm not glitching in and out of the floor, teleporting across the map, not able to hit anyone. But honestly, Aspyr, if you're listening, you're not home free. For this game to be made in 2004 and now charging nearly the price of a full AAA title, this game should work flawlessly online. I didn't have any issues locating dedicated servers for Battlefront 1, especially on day 2. Finding a dedicated Aspyr server was totally fine. I'll preface that I didn't try hosting a server on my own in Battlefront 1, so that experience might be a little bit rocky. I'll go into more of those details for Battlefront 2 in just a second. With the series as popular as Battlefront, I honestly just would think Aspyr would have placed a little bit more care in ensuring that the title worked smoothly before the launch, given that in-game titles, the launch is the most key moment for gaining that initial user traffic and getting a lot of the positive reviews to sustain the community and all the hype that you built up. And I don't know if behind the scenes there was like a dumb shareholder or a board of directors that was like pushing for this game to launch like at this current state. The organization obviously didn't learn anything from the 2017 historical flop of the Battlefront 2 launch. That game never recovered from a player base perspective. Even when they just put in a ton of love and content, got a solid community community manager to bring it back after like 2 or 3 years. You really got to hit home at that launch, and especially for a nostalgic title like this. So I just have to say shame on you, Aspire, in general, for even considering that this was okay to launch. All right, so now the tough one is Battlefront 2, what we've been all waiting for. The main reason I got hyped up for this whole classic collection 2 months before the launch was for Battlefront 2 and playing online with hero units, just demolishing the grunt infantry units throughout Battlefront. I also really wanted to play a lot of the DLC content that I missed, playing like Kit Fisto, Asajj Ventress. These are characters I completely missed out on because I didn't have an Xbox or access to DLC. My broke youngling self couldn't even fathom the option of playing as them. And then there was a lot of maps like Renvar and Bestman, which were some of my favorite maps in the first Battlefront that they carried over to Battlefront 2. And then Hero Assault is also unlocked for every ground-based map in the game, so you can just do the heroes versus villains match in every boots on the ground level, which is super sick. You only really got a chance to do that in Mos Eisley. I think you could download Kashyyyk as another DLC map, but it was pretty limited. I just saw a lot of Mos Eisley, and y'all Star Wars fans know that we've seen plenty of Tatooine. It's just nice to have a little breath of fresh air. So I'm going to start with the positives. Single player works, menus are great. The AI upscale graphics also look great to me personally. Not a remaster, feels true to the original game, has a little bit of some nice like upscale textures. It's a little bit shinier. Some minor nitpicky folks in comments are bringing up things like some of the reflective assets a little bit too shiny. So I get it. You know, if you're on the Death Star, it's a little bit much. Overall, I think the graphics were totally fine. They didn't botch anything, nothing breaking in terms of what you're going to see in the game from the graphics perspective. Playing as Kit Fisto and Asajj was everything that I was hoping for. Smiles across my face. Playing specifically as Kit Fisto on Renvar, it was like the first match that I had to jump into. Y'all already know it was sick. And just using the Force Orb ability, it's a must play if you never got to experience that back in the early 2000s. And I'm definitely happy they got rid of that horrible PC menu interface from the Battlefront 2 series, and they swapped in the console version of the menu UI for this game. Now we got to get into bad, and it's pretty bad. So I think to start, we'll get into the matchmaking and party system. So me and my friend were playing Battlefront 2 in the online multiplayer on day 2 after the launch. The game was just lagging out like 50% of the time. Hit detection was barely even passable. Players were kind of like teleporting around, freezing, and disappearing off the map more often than not. You could definitely play the game. Most of the experience is a little bit rough when you're just not getting any hit detection. I think one example is like 90% of the time when I'm respawning, my eyes were just assaulted with the whiplash camera shot of the map. I'll show something really quick on screen that deserves some type of legal disclaimer, just given how often this happens. It's nearly every single time I'm respawning, you're just gonna get whiplashed, and you're gonna just have to like either power through it or shut your eyes. Servers weren't too difficult for me to locate after about 8 hours after the launch, but honestly, good luck hosting your own server or joining a custom match like Hero Assault if you just want to play as heroes versus villains. Most of the time when I tried to join a private server or a specific filtered game mode, the game would crash on me. Every single time I wasn't able to find a custom Hero Assault match. I know some other folks are able to, but for me, just wasn't able to find it on PC at all. So I'm just kind of set at the mercy of whatever conquest or game mode is available on the active Aspire servers. If you're looking to create your own private online match, which I tried to do with my friend, by default, Aspire caps the FPS or frames per second to 30 FPS by default. Like it's wild in this day and age being capped at 30 FPS, but you can update these settings. Thanks to my friend, he found a workaround under the Steam settings for the game, so you can just go ahead and utilize this feature here to unlock those FPS. I'm not sure if it's going to work for everyone, but this worked for me, uncapping those frames. And I did want to mention a little bit more about the party system, and if you're looking to play Battlefront 2 online with your friends and take them with you like on Discord or in a lobby, there's no party system at all for Battlefront 2. We were having to join each other's games through the Steam integration versus trying to hop in like a similar server just because they would get filled up as soon as one of us would find a server that was working. I didn't really expect the Aspire developers to implement a party system within Battlefront 2 just because it didn't really launch with the title. Seems just like it was kind of like just get in a game, get out, given that the main draw, and I'm sure Aspire and the entire Battlefront community knew this, for not even like considering a party system for you and your friends to group up and then join servers servers together. Pretty wild to me that they didn't think about that. For now, the workaround is just using the Steam's join game integration to my knowledge, but if there's other recommendations that y'all are using, just feel free to let me know in the comments. When you do enter a match, you're forced to select the auto assign feature for which faction you're going to play as, either like the Rebels or the Empire or the Republic or the CIS. It's totally understandable, just given that there's probably some lobby balancing that needs to happen, but it sort of sucks. There's not even an option for you to choose which faction you want to join online. And then when my friend and I were auto joining, once we got into a server together, we were not able to choose which faction we would be on, and we really just wanted to play on a match together, and 6 out of those 8 times we just got defaulted into the opposing side, so we never got a chance really to play on the same team. Just no party system means that you're going to be left at the fate and mercy of the game to determine whether you're going to be mobbing with your friend or just like destroying them on the opposition. Overall, I don't regret purchasing the game. I definitely expect that I'm going to still be playing this game and this title, both like offline and online. I'm hoping Aspire is listening to a lot of the issues that happened at launch within the first 2 to 3 days. You know, I'm going to just keep playing through these bugs, and I'm hoping very much that they improve them and listen to feedback. I'd say that we absolutely need to continue putting a magnifying glass on the Aspire dev company, and hopefully this community for Battlefront 2 Classic Collection still stays alive. Already knowing that player base was split at the beginning just because Aspire decided to not implement crossplay. Player base is dropping, and hopefully this, like, once they blast out an update, they're going to do some repercussions to hopefully bring users back in with some type of incentive. $35 for an unexcusably buggy online experience at launch is just robbery. Wouldn't be surprised if everyone decides to request refunds. Yeah, I just think games now, we're in an era where a lot of games are releasing with launch bugs. I just think it's ridiculous. Not every game is able to bounce back, like Helldivers that recently released. But for a game like this with a nostalgic fan base, if you don't hit it at launch, like your title's going to die. And honestly, for Aspire at this state, for folks that pre-ordered the game, purchased it at launch this early, expecting to just have like a basic running title online, I think you got to either refund or compensate with something for every faithful person that made that purchase for your buggy Battlefront Classic Collection game. Otherwise, if they don't address any of these issues, it just kind of feels like insanely slimy as another game developer that just looks like they're doing a quick like hit and run cash grab situation. At this state for, you know, multiplayer games, if Aspire's looking to make any new ones, even if it's single player, I'm just not planning to buy them, just because this is just a very solid case of an instance where a developer should be listening to the community to fix the issue. Hopefully, to increase the visibility of this video, encourage you to drop a like or any comment, you know, issues that you guys were probably facing in game, or how the Aspire devs might be able to address any issues themselves if you haven't logged a ticket yourself with their kind of ridiculous website situation. Hopefully Aspire can improve the state of the current game, since this is just like super near and dear to my heart as a diehard Star Wars fan and OG Battlefront fan from back when Battlefront 1 released in 2004. As always, thanks again, y'all. Stay down to be down. Thanks.